Okay, for the media pitch and briefing memo, this is the last written assignment that you have before you start doing revisions and then, of course, do your final media relations strategy. So with this assignment, what you're doing is, and this one doesn't go in your portfolio, this is just for you to practice with me and get a sense of planning out this type of pitch. So with this, you'll see in the assignment document, what you're doing is you're writing a pitch to one of your media contacts. So this should be somebody that you already have in your media relations program. You already have a list of at least 5 folks in there. So choose one of those, and then that you're going to reach out to and pitch a story, pitch an interview with somebody from your organization. And so what you'll do in that is make sure that you do this formally and appropriately. So you'll you don't need to. It doesn't need to look like your news release or anything like that, but it does need to have all that contact information for your contact person, right? So you should have their name, their contact information, all of that, their organization up in the top corner. Then you should date it. Okay, single space, all of that contact information. Then add a extra space, give the date, add an extra space, and then address them. So, dear Mr. Johnson, or what have you, comma or colon, extra space, line space in there, and then write out your pitch. And when you're writing out your pitch, you need to make sure that you're explicitly telling them what it is that you want to feature. So you want to explain why this is content that is going to need to be relevant in the way that your inverted pyramid is as well, right? So you want to make sure that you're saying what it is that you're pitching, why this is relevant and important to the community and and the readers of this publication, and what you would be able to provide. So and this is really open. It's up to you what you decide to feature. So think about you could build this off of your op-ed, and you could say, look, here's something that that's a current event that the general public is interested in, that's discussing, that's up for debate. My organization is an authority on this issue, so interviewing the CEO of my organization to get more information and to feature that and to bring it home and to help your readers, local public, understand this better and how this affects the local, with economy or health or whatever it is you're talking about. This is going to be important to your readers. Explain the value of this and why this is something that they should feature, and then and say, so I'd like to have so and so CEO of my organization or whoever interviewed on this topic. You can talk on A, B, and C. Provide A, B, and C. Information that your public needs and wants, your readers, and I think that this is a win-win for both for our organization, your news organization, as well as creating a more informed public. Okay, so that's like an email that you would write out. It should be short and concise, but it should hit all of those beats that I just explained. So you should do this as, any of this writing should be concise. But you should do that as concisely as possible so that it's not a long, drawn-out email. Anytime that you're writing something that I'm saying is like an email, you should be able to see it all on one page without having to scroll through. So when we get emails, we want to be able to look without having to scroll and make sure all that information is there. That's what I mean by concise. So think about how much information have you put in here, how long is this email, is it going to be too long, how can you cut, well, making sure that every relevant piece of information is still included. So it's about just taking out the, unnecessary clauses and whatnot in your writing. Okay. So that's the first page of your assignment, right? You'll turn this in as a Word document. It should, be 2 separate pages, but in the same Word document. You see what I mean? Starting on the next page. Then the second part of that is the briefing memo. So now you're assuming that the reporter has agreed that, yes, we will feature this interview that you've proposed. So now the second piece of this is the briefing memo, which is addressed to the person who will be doing the interview. This isn't you, right? You're not doing the interview. That's not what you're proposing. You're proposing that somebody in your organization that's considered an authority. So it may be your CEO, it may be somebody else, depending on the organizational structure. And now you need to be able to provide those details that I asked you to talk about in the midterm anyway, but provide all those that information that they need to know in order to be prepared for the interview. So some of that information is, okay, again, addressing it appropriately, dear so-and-so. Again, you're looking at this as if this is a memo or this is a memo, and I'll give you, I've got an example on there for you to figure out how to do this, but it's similar. And so now you're going to want to make sure that you say, to whom this is addressing. Make sure that you give them the logistical information, the date and time of the interview, and if it is, if you have decided to reach out to a news organization that's a television news organization, then the place as well, if this is going to be a filmed interview. Otherwise, if this is over the phone, done within the office is fine as well. Make sure that you then you need to be able to give them a bulleted list of key messages. These are their talking points, things that they really need to make sure that they hit in the interview. So what are those key messages that you want to get out? So again, if you're talking about a current event and it's an issue that has sides, make sure that you put out those key messages that, for example, if this is access to healthcare, here are how many, Georgians are without healthcare, especially in the Columbus region. Here's how many we help as an organization. Here's whatever it is that you're trying to talk about. You have all of those key messages that you really have to include about your organization and about the issue that are going to be most important to this topic. Then you want to make sure that you have included some topics to avoid. So what's information that you don't want to put out there in this venue at this time, and make sure that those are listed as well so that your spokesperson knows what not to talk about. You should provide a brief background of the publication so that they understand who they're talking to, what kind of work they publish, as well as any information about the readership, the demographic that who's gonna be reading the content of this interview or viewing it, right? So that they know a little bit about the publication as well as the target audience of the publication. And like I've had you do before, when you do this, I want you to include a recent publication, a recent example of this, the reporter that you've reached out to based on, and then what you're proposing here. Then for me, and you can do this by just posting the link in the text box of your submission folder. So you don't have to put this on any of your document, but put it just in that text box so that I can click the link and see that there's an example that shows that, yes, this is the pitch that you've put together here does make sense for the reporter that you've reached out to. Like I said, I've got an example for you to take a look at just as a guide, but recognize that all of your organizations are different, and so that'll be something unique in that regard. Otherwise, make sure everything is cleaned up and everything. And so this is the lesson you're writing. And again, like I said, this isn't going to go into your portfolio. This is just your final assignment. The five documents that will go into your portfolio you've already completed. Like I said, last night was the last night to submit, so I got a couple of items last night that I'll look over. So if you did submit anything you hadn't turned in along the way, I received those, and I will get those back to you, as well as the op-eds. Everything else, in the meantime, as you complete this assignment, you can begin working on those revisions that I've put out for you in Clearview to make sure you get everything cleaned up before it goes into your portfolio. And then the last thing I want to just remind you about that portfolio is that you should you decide that you want extra credit in this class, you can also put together an e-portfolio, but it needs to be clean and well put together. If you want to, you'll still have to turn in your written, document portfolio, and that will be, but you'll still put that together very professionally. And even though you won't be turning in a hard copy, you should have all of the cover page and contents, everything laid out in there appropriately. But you can also submit that to me for the actual portfolio assignment, as well as a link in the text box of that portfolio assignment to your e-portfolio, where you've created your portfolio with all 5 of these revisions. If you are choosing to do this and you have an existing portfolio that has a bunch of other information on it, don't do that for me. That's not what I'm asking. Obviously, I would hope that you would add this to that, but I want to just see that you can take this specific 5-document portfolio and put it online in a professional way, and you can get up to 20 points based on how well you do that. So thinking about how to effectively use your tabs to make this navigable, and make sure you can still have obviously any portfolio you want to have some kind of a description of who you are, so a brief bio and things like that, but otherwise, example work, drop-down menu, maybe where you have each of these 5 documents that can be easily navigated so that you could send this as a link to a potential employer, and if they like what they see on your resume and cover letter, they may then move over and take a look at your e-portfolio, which would be something that would be easier than bringing in a hard copy of your portfolio to the interview, because perhaps this could guarantee you an interview more than just waiting on your cover letter or resume and bringing in the hard copy at that time. Is the idea. So remembering that that is an extra credit opportunity for you. If you do have any questions along the way about what you're pitching or any of this stuff or other assignments, if you have questions about my revision suggestions for you, by all means, please send me an email or feel free to drop by my office hours. And in the meantime, I think this is the last, thing you have. Is portfolio? Let me see. I think your portfolio is due too, next week before your break. But then next week I'll also go over the details of your final written piece, your media relations strategy, which is the last thing that you'll do other than the exam. So you're basically done with the 3/4, even maybe more so, of the coursework for this class. So good luck. Let me know if you have questions, and I probably talked longer than I wanted to, so I will talk to you next week.